Bet you didn't think they would take your house. Are we getting the idea now? This is what you get when the law treats people as distinct peoples. Caroline Elliott posts, a bombshell judgment was released yesterday by the BC Supreme Court declaring Aboriginal title over land enrichment, including private property. If this stands, it has massive implications for private property across BC. Read the highlighted sections for yourself. So, Coahuilcan's Aboriginal title burdens the land over which the Crown grants the fee simple interest were issued. I find that the Coahuilcan's Aboriginal title, which is grounded in the prior occupation of the Coahuilcan's ancestors and a constitutionally protected interest in land, is a senior interest in land vis-a-vis the fee simple titles which derive from the Crown grants. Aboriginal title is a burden on fee simple title. I agree that Aboriginal title is a prior and senior right to land. The question of what remains of Aboriginal title after granting a fee simple title to the same land should be reversed. The proper question is, what remains of fee simple title after Aboriginal title is recognized in the same lands? So they consider Aboriginal title a senior title in BC. And what you need to realize is that the entire hoax, which is what remains exposing the Kamloops mass grave deception's impact on Powell River, okay, and they actually want to change the name of the town, Powell River. This laid the bedrock, the groundwork for the United Nations Indigenous UNDRIP, whatever, I don't know the whole title. And so this is an international recognition, right, coming from Europe. And what does Europe need? And what does Europe want? They want collateral security. So basically what's happening is that Ottawa is using the Native people to squat on Canadian title, to squat on our lands, to use them. And the Aboriginal industry, which is getting something like $30 to $40 billion a year now, is more than happy to accommodate them because they are basically in league with the rules-based order. And so this gives them more jurisdiction, more power, more legal powers, and it creates an entire legal hive, a nest of ill-doing, grievances against the Canadian people. And this is something that many people have talked about for a very long time, and it has not been really addressed by the Canadian people, who have been somewhat captured because basically most Canadian people are not even getting the news. Like, we're censored. We have censorship. If you're Canadian people and they're scrolling their Facebook feed, well, they're not getting any news on that feed. They're not seeing alternative media, alternative opinions. They're only seeing the state-funded, sponsored opinion. So why is Ottawa doing this? Well, I think that Ottawa uses strategic ambiguity to further all of their agendas. They confuse, they look here, don't look there, and Pierre Poilievre is no better. Even this by-election in, I think it's Battle Creek or whatever in Alberta, I can't remember the exact name. They have something like over 100 people on that roster as well, that list of candidates for the seat. And he's not really making that big of a fuss about it. I mean, he's just they're all the same in Ottawa. They're just all in the same group. And they are controlled by the king and the crown and by European interests, by probably financial interests, really, ultimately. And they're not really representing the Canadian people. They are a de facto government, and they're really hurting the Canadian people, and they are in the crosshairs of the United States. I mean, just imagine if we were to become one state, then where would the governor sit? Possibly in Calgary or Edmonton. Why would it be in Ottawa? Why should it have to be in Ottawa? What does Ottawa have to offer? What do they really have to offer? I mean, it's possible that that they could even be considered culpable of crimes against Canadian people for what they have done. So I highly recommend that you watch this What Remains, Exposing the Kamloops Mass Grave Deception's Impact on Powell River. And I also highly recommend that you follow Bruce Party on X and any podcast that he's doing, because he's right in the middle of the fray, and he is doing a really, really good job explaining things to the Canadian people. Bye for now.